Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Hope you're doing well. Nope, she decided, nope, not today. I kind of debated if I was going to do it myself today. Yeah, do a video today, or not. Um, and if I did, I thought maybe I might do something with my hair, put it in ponytails or like I usually do or something, but oh well. Here I am. Reason why I was really debating, excuse me, if I was going to do a video or not, because I really feel like crap. Um, yeah, last night, excuse me, last night um, winds picked up and everything, but fortunately, a lot of that smoke moved out of the area. Excuse me. Um, so yeah, it did give because of the way the sun was reacting, with the smoke that was still in the upper atmosphere, and so it gave everything kind of a eerie orange glow or what have you. But what was really cool though is it was like you looked off to the southeast, basically where Black Mountain is, and it was just beautiful, clear blue sky, and you could see the mountains very, very clearly and everything, which we really hadn't been for actually quite a while. But it was just beautiful, gorgeous. And then you looked off to the north, you could just see all the particles up there in the atmosphere. But yeah, I kind of made I know the reason why I really feel like crap today is because I I did a boo boo last night. I was doing a grocery delivery, and for whatever reason, it was a very large order. It was definitely somebody's groceries for several days at least, and I had, for whatever reason, I had left my phone in the trunk of the car as I was taking some bags up, and then I have Bluetooth that I wear, and I had, for whatever reason, I decided to leave my phone in the car, and all of a sudden I hear notification for another delivery request pop in my ear, and I was just like, oh crap, and I was almost to the door, and I went running back, not even to get my phone and everything, not even thinking. It's like, oh crud, why did you do that? And sure enough, there goes the chest. I'm like, oh, you fool. So I finished the delivery. I was pretty much out of breath by the time everything was said and done. And then I get on the road. I go pick up. It was actually another quick grocery store thing. They just needed one item, and I start heading over to where it is that I need to drop off. And along the way, I had to pull over and pull out my inhaler because it was just, I kept trying to do, whenever I start having those breathing difficulties, because um, I know, unfortunately, if you're a diabetic, I know I keep bringing up diabetes, but it is a big factor in my life. I hate to say it. Not that I'm trying to, do victim mentality, oh, sorry about that, folks, or anything like that. It's just I know how much, you know, it impacts and everything, um, even with treatments. And that's what I'm alluding to right now. Unfortunately, if you are diabetic, you have to be very, very careful with steroids. Because for whatever reason, I don't understand why, for some reason, steroids shoot your blood sugars up. So, especially if you take them like in a pill form internally, okay, as opposed to an inhaler, you can still have some effects with an inhaler, a steroid inhaler, and that's basically all I have right now is a steroid inhaler. So, and it's one that I had gotten a year ago. I've used it kind of sparingly. So anyway, um, yeah, I pulled over and to do that. It isn't something where you can just do it and keep on moving. You have to be able to wash your, or at least swish your mouth out with some water afterwards. So anyway, I did that and everything. It's like, oh yeah, I could finally breathe. Um, um, that's what I was talking about before. Usually, what I try and do is I try and use the inhaler as a last resort. Basically, what I try and do is this one breathing exercise that I learned about with rereading my one yoga book that I have. It's a basically what you do is you are focusing, yeah, you're focusing on your breathing, but you're focusing on making each part of the cycle uh, the same amount of time. Okay, so say for instance, you breathe in for say 2-3 seconds or something like that, and then you're pausing for 2-3. You're not holding your breath. You're just doing that. You know how you breathe in and then you pause and then breathe out and then you pause, breathe in. Okay, you're trying to make that whole cycle, each stage of that cycle, the same amount of time. Okay, so you breathe in 2-3, say for instance 2-3-4 seconds, whatever, and then you're pausing for that same amount of time, breathing out that same amount of time, and then um, pausing again for that same amount of time. So I try and think, do that. Part of it is help calm my brain down, because it's like it knows, oh my god, because of course it wants to go into panic mode. Oh my gosh, I can't breathe, and it's like, okay, it helps calm the brain down, while at the same time also helping to stabilize the breathing. Okay, but unfortunately that wasn't happening last night. It just got too irritated, so that's why I pulled over to do the inhaler. And yeah, so what was really weird though this time is that after I did it, it was like, yeah, it was great. I could breathe again, but I had an unusual side effect this time. It went throughout my body, and I was feeling my joints and so forth get real stiff, you know? Um, I don't know if any of you saw the documentary up on Prime with Celine Dion, with what she described, with what she's been going through with stiff person syndrome. But it kind of, I'm not saying I have stiff person syndrome, but I did resonate with that document, with when she was describing how she feels with trying to sing with the pressure in her chest. I was just like, oh my gosh, yes. I can relate to this so well. So anyway, but yeah, it was just like with the steroid, when it was it wound up going throughout my body, and it's still yet this morning. It's like I just my joints are feeling really stiff everywhere, and my uh, I was also getting that tingling sensation where I could feel it penetrating um, um, my nerve endings. And the only time I have experienced that once before, 7 years ago, almost 7 years ago, when I was stung by a scorpion. It was actually in this hand, my left hand. So yeah, no, that's not an engagement ring. It's a ring that my mom gave me many, many years ago, in case anybody's wondering. No, I'm not engaged. I'm not even in a relationship. So no, but just in case anybody starts speculating, no, that's not the case. So anyway, but yeah, I was stung in this hand. It was actually after I had a car accident, and I was uh, uh, dealing with a concussion in my corpus callosum. It's basically the part that it's all those nerve endings in your brain that joins the two hemispheres together. And so I wasn't thinking properly and so forth. And anyway, long story short, um, I wound up getting stung by a scorpion in this hand 17 times. So yeah, lots of fun. But that was the only, so and that's what it reminded me of last night with feeling it going through my, the steroid going through my body and it hitting those nerve endings. I remember I really didn't feel it initially. It wasn't until I was in an ambulance and I was going to go to one hospital, but it's a trauma 2 clinic. Sorry, I need to adjust myself here. It was a trauma 2 hospital, and I need to be taken over to our only trauma 1 hospital, which is UMC. And by the way, it's also one of the worst hospitals in the area. Uh, but I had to be taken over there because unfortunately they're the only ones who had any anti-venom in case I needed it. They were all, at the time I was more concerned with its affecting, I was, and actually still deal with um, 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 pinched nerves in my spine. Basically, back here in the back of my neck, it's my C6 and C7 back there. Uh, and it's been flaring up a little bit here lately. It's like, ouch. But oh well, I'm used to dealing with it. I know how to handle it now. But anyway, I um, I was more concerned with what was going on there and what possibly was going to happen with all this venom going up. Because I mean, basically, what happened then was my hand wound up being like this. It was like, I don't know if I could turn it around or not. It was like this. Only I had to. My hand and my whole arm wound up being like this. I felt that it's like told people there for a while. I was like, yeah, I have my own hand puppet. So that's what it reminded me of, was having my own hand puppet. But yeah, for quite a while, I was living like this. I couldn't move. I couldn't move it. It was just completely paralyzed. And but anyway, um, but yeah, I didn't really have any issues with the nerve endings until I was in the ambulance being transported over there to UMC, and I was just in so much pain and everything that the paramedic who was in the back with me, he was just like, do you have any issues with morphine? I'm like, I don't know. He was like, okay, well, I'm going to try giving you some morphine. So he gave it to me, and I felt it go right straight through my body. And I felt every single nerve endings that are here and here, just go on fire. And that's what I was feeling last night, was that same feeling, only not as intense as what it was. So but yeah, there's a little bit more to the story with what happened after. I basically found out that I'm allergic to morphine. I went completely pale. He was like, are you normally this way? And I was so out of it. And I just looked at just like, I'm like, I don't know. I was gone. And then I happened to look down, like, at my legs. I was wearing shorts. Excuse me. And I looked down and I'm like, oh, I guess I am pretty white. He's like, yeah. And my mom did the same thing. So it's like, it's definitely hereditary. So yeah, that's, like I was saying, that's what I was feeling last night with this and everything. Or throughout my body, and of course hitting here. I still have issues with this hand. Uh, since that happened. How I know people always say, "How did you get stung 17 times?" And it's like, well, unfortunately, I was holding a charcoal bag. I was going to grill some hamburgers, and I was holding the bottom of the bag. I know I'm holding my tablet, so it makes it difficult. I was holding the top like this with my right hand, and then the bottom I was holding it like this, and the scorpion was up underneath the bag, and not thinking right, I unfortunately um, didn't think to check the bottom of the bag before I lifted it, or after I lifted it, and I was just like, oh crud, but I couldn't at first I couldn't figure out what was going on, because unfortunately what was happening with the concussion is both hemispheres were having to work independently of each other, and they were trying to communicate, but the brain is really a miraculous thing. And it's like the neurologist had told me at the time, basically when it comes to a concussion, it's about 3 months it can take for the brain to heal itself. And if after I mean, excuse me, 3 months, if it doesn't heal itself, then we know that it's most likely going to be a permanent thing. And so that's basically what was going on, is my brain was trying to heal itself with reworking everything around where the damage was. And because of I wasn't thinking straight. I was also having a lot of blackouts. I would just go off somewhere. I would be in the middle of something. I'd be in the middle of a grocery store, or times when I was in the middle of cooking, and and all of a sudden I come back, and I remember even burning myself at one point because I was I was in the process of making taco shells, and I was dipping them into oil, and I dipped one into the oil, and it was just like I went out, and next thing I know, I'm burning my finger because somehow my finger wound up in there. But anyway, so yeah, when I was holding the bag, excuse me, it um, I couldn't. First of all, I was getting the sensation feeling of being pricked, but I couldn't figure out what it was or even what to do about it. And it was just like final, and I kept thinking, oh, it's a rose thorn. I was trying to comprehend what was happening. And finally something screamed in my brain to drop the bag. So I did, and all of a sudden, that's when I saw the scorpion. It was one of the little Arizona Browns or whatever they're called. It was definitely a female by the size. Went running up underneath my washing machine, and it was just like, okay. And of course my hand started stiffening up, and I could feel the venom going up my arm and everything. And um, um, it yeah, like I said, it is starting to stiffy up, and so on and so forth, and swell. It got starting to get really, really swollen and so forth. It wasn't until after everything was said and done, swelling started going down, and I was finally able to reopen my hand and everything. I was able to actually see all the prick points, and with counting them all, we could see that there was about 17 of them, and it was just like, it was basically what happened was, of course, the poor thing was feeling trapped, and it was just sitting in there stinging the whole time, and it was just like, oh crud. But yeah, the reason why they wanted to make sure that had anti-venom. Usually they don't like to give it because it can wind up having some causing permanent issues, but they wanted it to be on hand. I really wasn't I wasn't even thinking about it. Like I was saying before, I was more concerned with what possibly might happen with the pinched nerves that I was dealing with back there, because I was dealing with tingling in my arms and so forth at the time. And excuse me, I know, I'm sorry. But what the reason why they were concerned is because of the fact that it was my left arm, and this is the arm that goes right straight to your heart. So they were concerned with possibly the venom going into my heart and causing issues there, which I didn't even think about until after the fact. Basically until they told me. It was like, wow. So yeah, and unfortunately later on that night, after all the painkillers and so forth started wearing off. And unfortunately, by the time I got home and so forth, it was too late for me to get any sort of a prescription filled for when everything wore off. And I wound up having to go back to the hospital that night because, I mean, the pain. I mean, when the painkillers wore off, it felt like somebody was trying to drive a railroad spike right straight through the middle of my hand. I mean, it was so excruciating. Um, and I remember the nurse telling me, okay, when it wears off, you're going to be feeling like someone's trying to drive a roofing nail through your hand now. And when it happened, it was like, no, this is more like a railroad spike. Awful. It was terrible. So yeah. But Yeah, actually, I completely had forgot about it until later on Friday night. Actually, it was Friday, July 26th, that I had the car accident um, uh, 7 years ago. And yeah, I still deal with it 7 years later, with those pinched nerves. But, excuse me. And I was out for about 3 months. I was pretty badly injured. I was rear ended on my way home from work. And then everything that happened with the Scorpion happened the day before the shooting. Yeah. So that's how anytime when I was doing the ride sharing work, and anytime people would ask me what I was doing during the shooting, that's what I tell people. That's my story. It isn't just about that. Also, the next day I was so doped up. I wound up sleeping most of the day, and I remember waking up that night, and it was just after 10. I remember that. And I went to the bathroom, and then I was just like, gosh, I just need some fresh air. So I stepped outside, and at that time I lived right across the street from the airport. And um, I was just like, I'm just sitting outside and just getting some fresh air and everything. And I happened to notice that the airport was real quiet, especially for a Sunday night. I thought it was very, very unusual. And, but at the same point, I also knew that we had the concert happening all weekend. So I was just like, well, okay. Sometimes that happens with Sunday nights to get the, especially when we get those big events in and so forth. Airport will get a little quiet, but I don't know. It was just kind of eerie. I was just like, okay, didn't think anything of it. And then I went back to bed, but in case I had any problems, I went ahead and left my door unlocked. I didn't want, have to call and I can't get to the door and they're bashing the door in and I had to pay for a new door. Um, so anyway, I went ahead and left my door unlocked all night, and I felt safe and with where I was living. I had good neighbors and so forth, and they all knew what had happened and and I knew they were all keeping an eye on me and everything. So anyway, it wasn't until the next morning I wake up and of course, very first thing I do is I grab my tablet. At that time, very first thing I would do is go up on Facebook, and my Facebook is just exploding with messages, those generic messages of asking, "Are you safe from the horrific event?" I was just like, "What the heck?" I had no idea what had happened or anything, and I was just like, "What?" So yeah, that's how I found out about the shooting, and I knew that I had a friend and his at that time girlfriend. They're married now. They were both big country western fans, so of course I texted them. Yeah, of course, the very first thing I did is I let everybody know, yeah, I'm okay. And then I started texting people, okay, did you go to did you go to that concert last night? And he was just like, no, we're fine. Thanks for asking, so on and so forth. It's like, okay. And then I also had another friend um, who was a cab driver at the time. And I was just, and I knew he worked nights um, during those hours and on that day. And he was just like, yeah, I was at the event, but I'm okay. So he would actually transported people to several times to hospitals and so forth. So yeah, that's always been my shooting story, because it was really weird too with watching, the footage, the news reports as they were coming out. They were what they found, like in the trunk of his car and so forth. They were thinking that he was gonna possibly do maybe another bombing, maybe make a run for it, maybe. And I think he'd even come out and that he may have had a safe house or something. Well, shoot, I lived less than 10 minutes from Mandalay Bay. Yeah. What was he thinking about doing if he was going to try and make an escape? And with where I was at, it would have been a perfect hiding place. Perfect. Mm-hmm. And here I had my door open all freaking night. Yeah. A little bit scary to think about. Not my first scary incident. I've been through quite a few in my life. But anyway, so stories for another day. But I know this is kind of a little bit of a throwback video, isn't it? But yeah, as far as the weather is concerned, we had another, I think another high trough or something, I don't know, go through. Definitely winds picked up quite a bit last night, but temperatures dropped. It was so nice last night. It was just after midnight, and saw that it was only 87 degrees. It was like, oh my gosh, we haven't seen high 80s in a while. It was so nice. I was actually able to have my windows open, and there wasn't any smoke smell or anything, even though you were seeing it up in the upper atmosphere and so forth. Not much in the way of smoke smell and so forth. Excuse me. Um, but yeah, it was, if it wasn't for how I was, feeling with everything else, it was like, oh my gosh, this is great. But anyway, I know it's going to take a while. It's even screwed up my diabetes. So it's like, yeah, it's taken me a minute to get that under control too. So, but yeah, and today it's only supposed to be 102, so that'll be nice. I think we're supposed to jump back up to 108 later on in the week. I had seen it's a little bit more on the normal side, but yeah, it's nice. It's what, it was only 91 just before I went up here and started recording, so nice, very very nice. So anywho, um, yeah, I guess you can come back to Vegas now. It still could be risky because we still have a lot of wildfires out there, and we're still surrounded by a lot of wildfires. So we're not out of the woods yet. So just be cautious. And between that and then, of course, COVID being on the rise here on the West Coast and so forth. Yeah, just be careful, folks. Okay, take it easy. Take care of yourselves. Protect yourselves. Okay. Um, so, all right. I can't think of really much of anything else going on or at this particular moment. I'm going to run to the store here in a minute and pick up a few things, excuse me, that I need and everything. Try and get some movement into me so I can get to, so I'm not feeling so stiff and everything. I was seriously thinking about maybe doing maybe a little bit of yoga, but I think I'll just um, do some stretching while walking around the store and so forth. So that sounds good. I think I'll do that and everything, and then get back to my project that I'm working on. I didn't get a chance to work on that yesterday. That's okay. All in good time. All in good time. All right. I know, and I apologize for constantly having to be coughing, but it is what it is. So, um, But yeah, oh, and if you all didn't get a chance, yeah, I definitely recommend that you all watch that Celine Dion documentary. That was really, really awesome. And then to see how well she did. I'm not a big fan of the Olympics or anything, but when I was seeing it coming out that she was had actually sang there, I of course had to find videos to see it and everything. Wow, total turnaround. She worked hard to do that. She worked really, really hard. I am so proud of her for being able to do that because I know what she's going through. You know, with that heavy chest feeling and the strain, or sometimes it's difficult to even be able to talk and so forth. Yeah, I know exactly what she's going through, and it's like good for her. I am so proud of her. So, so proud. So, yeah, definitely. And I happen to be actually, even though I know she's not in town, I happen to be dropping off a delivery order in an area where I know she lives, and I definitely made sure I sent off some positive healing energy to her last night. Um, just, just because, just because it's things that we should do for each other. Hmm. No matter what our circumstances, we should be helping each other no matter what. It's what helps us to bring that inner peace. So in that way we can keep it, even especially when we're dealing with difficult situations, that spreading that peace and feeling that love is even more important because it also helps with our own self-healing. So, okay. All right, boys and girls, I'm going to let you go. I love you all, and I'll talk to you all later. All right. Peace.